Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, welcome to the January 15th General Membership Meeting of the Gulf Breeze Historical Society. I'm Barbara Udit, President, and we're going to go ahead and open with a prayer. So if you'll just bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you, Father, for this beautiful day, this beautiful place that we get to call home. Many of us in this room anyway, but just this whole area is such a blessing, and we are so just grateful to live here. And we're going to hear more about that tonight, and we thank you for that, Father. We thank you for our mayor who's here tonight, J.B. Schluter, and we thank you for every person here tonight. We ask a special blessing on their homes, their families, their lives, Father. Keep us in your will. Keep us close to you so that we're doing what we should be doing when we should be doing it. And help us with the Historic Society to accomplish our goals this year and to move forward positively. We love you and we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, and Donald, I'm going to ask you if everybody would stand, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll have Donald Knapp please start us off.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, and now Jim, you want to come up and introduce our program for tonight? This is Jim Cox, our Vice President.
The title of this evening's talk might be a little confusing. The Historical Society, and we're here to talk about the future history of Gulf Breeze. And as I mentioned in our last meeting, history is a moving target. Today will be history. Okay, so we wanted to have someone talk about, hey, 5 years from now, if something, had happened, I heard that. I heard about that before. Okay, and our speaker is J.B. Schluter. Okay, that most of you probably know him as being a surfing bum that happens to own Interlight Surf Shop. Okay, but he's also been a city council member for 14 years, and he's currently our mayor. So who better to talk about the vision of the future, okay, than J.B. Schluter? Okay, so okay.
Thanks everyone, I appreciate it. Like Jim said, I'm J.B. Schluter. I've lived in Gulf Breeze since 1970. My family moved here from Pensacola. I was born and raised in Pensacola, and I've had the privilege. I grew up right over here on the corner of Florida Avenue and Dolphin. When I lived there, the Camille or Dolphin was a dirt road to the police station, and the rest of Florida Avenue was a dirt road all the way over to Bear. Some of you might remember that. You're like, yeah, what are you talking about? We all lived there. We know what you're talking about. But so anyway, so I've had the privilege of growing up here, raising my children here, raising my grandchildren. I have 3 children. I have 10 grandchildren now, and some of them are still in the high schools and stuff here as we speak right now. So they asked me to talk about the future history of Gulf Breeze, which was kind of odd to me. I thought, well, you mean Back to the Future, right? Like the movie? He goes, no, the future history. I went, I don't know what that means, Jim. He goes, you'll figure it out. So, I'd like to start off by saying that Gulf Breeze is a really unique little town. We have a really unique opportunity because we're so tied in. We're tied in by the Live Oaks Reservation to the east of us. We're surrounded by water. So we have this unique community that we have an opportunity to do it right? Why can't we do it right? We know we can't make everybody happy all the time, but we do have the opportunity and the uniqueness of a town of about 7,000 people, about 3,000 homes, to really try to do it right and try to make it as we quoted years ago, the most livable city. We got a lot of criticism for putting that out, the most livable city, because some people didn't like some of the ideas we had for the 50-year plan. So I'm going to talk about some of that, some of the plans that we have here in the future for the city of Gulf Breeze, and some of the things that we've seen in the past that most of you guys, I recognize a lot of you grew up here, or you lived here, you probably lived here longer than me. You're thinking, you're a new kid in the block, you're not an old guy. So I'll talk about some of the things that we have here. Of course, this is Our park down at Mariner's Landing, this is the one we just finished up. So you can see some of the new landscaping and everything. I believe that's Mariner's Landing. Yes. So here it is when we were doing the ribbon cutting at Mariner's Landing. We were able to redo the whole boat launch area. We're getting ready to launch the landscaping of the west end. We're going to have a monument there, all new landscaping, all new benches, all new swings. Y'all heard of swing gate, right? So we're going to have all kinds of swings and everything on this side, just like we have on the east side. So you'll be able to go to the bridge in the morning. You can watch a magnificent sunrise, or you can go there in the afternoon and watch a great sunset. So that's our plans right now. That's the next thing you'll start seeing. We're going to break ground. We should have broke ground this week on that moving forward, but it is government, so nothing's on time. So here it is. Here's the original plot of Gulf Breeze. The Live Oaks Reservation. Oh, I touched it. I shouldn't have done that. The Live Oaks Reservation down here, and then this is Gulf Breeze right here. So they say the best way to look at things is if you had a crystal ball. You know, what would we have changed if we could have changed it back then? Would we have moved 98 closer to Pensacola Bay? Would we have moved 98 closer to the Sound? You know, what would we have done different? Now that we're in 2025, I think this was originally plotted 1829 was when this was originally plotted, right there. You know, of course we didn't incorporate until 1961, but this was, and now a lot of you, city of Gulf Breeze really goes all the way to the edge of Villa Venice. So the Live Oaks Reservation is part of the city of Gulf Breeze. I can remember when I grew up going to Villa Venice thinking, who would live in Villa Venice? That is way down the highway. That would be so far down the road. And there was a sign there that said, welcome to Gulf Breeze. You're leaving Gulf Breeze. You know, a lot of you are shaking your head. You remember that. But a lot of people don't realize that. They think once you go underneath the bridge overpass, you're out of Gulf Breeze. Or once you get past Whataburger. Or whatever that might be. So, but actually, this is Gulf Breeze, the city limits all the way down to here. And then you see Peaks Point, Town Point, Deer Point, and then this is where the Shoreline Park is and all that, so that gives you a good reference. So what would we have done different? Would we have brought 98 over closer this way, so we had more room for our schools and everything? Or would we have done it the other way around, so we had more room for houses? Who knows? You know, if you look at it, you step back and look at it, did we make a mistake? Did we make a mistake back then? We don't know. You know, it's still a work in progress. But the main thing that with Gulf Breeze, the main thing we're going to be dealing with over the next 20 years is 98. And a lot of y'all know that, 98. I mean, y'all remember when 98 was just, you could park on 98. You could park on the side of the road and go to Tasty Freeze at 98. Well, Tasty Freeze is where the mattress store is. I don't know why the mattress store is there, but that's where, that's, you know, Tasty Freeze, you know, was right there. And we would park right there in front of it. We'd get an ice cream cone on our way home. And, but now, you know, it's a 3-lane road and you don't park on 98 anymore. But anyway, so that was the main thing. So 98. So there's a lot of things going to happen with 98. You know, they just put a new, you know, 6-lane bridge. We've all experienced that. You know, you're going the speed limit, somebody goes past you at 120, and you're like, where are the police when you need them? So anyway, so you know, they're looking at right now. They're doing a PD study right now on the corridor of Gulf Breeze. How can we make it safer? Because we're already 3 lanes, as it is. But that's going to be a big thing that you know, I don't know if y'all know that, but FDOT doesn't bow down to anybody. They do exactly what they want to do. Now, we can make suggestions to them, and we can beg them and plead with them and all that, but they're going to do exactly what they want to do. So we're working with FDOT right now because we don't want it to become a 6-lane road through the middle. Oh, thank you. Yes, sir. Through the middle of Gulf Breeze. So that's one of the things that we're going to be working on. Another thing that pinches Gulf Breeze right now is the Pensacola Beach flyover. If you're coming from Pensacola Beach and you're coming into Gulf Breeze, that's the pinch point. You can't get wider than 2 lanes right there. So what's the solution? We did a study, Gulf Breeze paid for a study, that we want to be, 98 to be a flyover, and when you're coming from the beach, you'll go underneath it and come and make on it. So it no longer pinches right there. You don't have that problem. Then plus we can work on multi-use paths to take people all the way to the multi-use path that goes down the highway. And they're also doing a multi-use path that goes all the way to Destin. I don't know if you've been down 98, but if you look at 98, you'll notice that multi-use path, the plan is to extend it all the way to Destin and all the way to Pensacola. I don't know if y'all do that. So when you come into Gulf Breeze, they'll use the multi-use path that goes through Gulf Breeze, take you on the bridge, and take you into Pensacola and continue. Give me a second. So that's some of the pinching points on 98. Let's see here. This was part of the original plat. Probably a lot of this stuff is historical, and it's probably in y'all's books. You're like, yeah, JB, we know all about this. With 1812, you see 1,474 residents occupied this area. Now here's some of the growth we're seeing. So in the past 3 years, we've had over $50 million in home improvements and new homes built in the city of Gulf Breeze. So what does that mean to us? Well, a lot of you know that means that the house that was right next to you that you lived in is getting torn down and a brand new house is getting built right next to you, which you're hoping doesn't change your property taxes. So we're seeing a lot of growth in the residential area, but very little in the commercial area. We've only seen about $6 million growth in the commercial area. So we're getting this parity of more residential, which is not a bad thing. It helps us keep our millage rate down to the 1.92% we've been able to keep for over 10 years here in Gulf Breeze proper. So here we are, right here at the right here by the Methodist Church. I think where we redid that crosswalk right there that was kind of dangerous because it had a turn lane coming into the Methodist Church. So this is some of the improvements that we're continuing to try to work on around the city of Gulf Breeze to make it a better place. You know, one of the things that we try to do in Gulf Breeze as the mayor and the city council is we try to keep the small town flair I think that we all want. We attracted us all here. It's the reason we bring our kids back here to raise and our grandchildren to raise and everything. And it's been hard to do with the influx and you know, with COVID and the change and the amount of people were moving into our area and buying houses and just paying cash for it. There was no limit to what they would spend on them. But we're still trying to maintain this small town flair. And it really helps us because what my initial part was, we're encapsulated by water. And so we're still a walking community, we're still a bike riding community, we're still getting access to everything in our streets and in our town by walking or being on a bike or a golf cart, or apparently every middle school has an electric scooter or electric something that they have the Autobahn out here to run around on. But anyway, so you know, we tried to keep that in for the past, you know, since the commercial recreational area has been developed. And we have a great recreational area and great restaurants. Now I would say that there's been several big things in my lifetime living in Gulf Breeze since the 70s. I was about 11, 12 years old when I moved here. So what were some of those big impacts? The high school. I was the first graduating class. I went through 9th grade all the way through my senior year. That was the first graduating class that went all 4 years at the high school. We didn't have a high school before. My brothers and stuff were getting bused over to PHS. A lot of you people here might have got bused to PHS if you lived on the beach, or that was the high school you went to. You know, so that was a big milestone. I would say another big milestone was when they built the football field. Suddenly we have a football field across 98. Didn't seem like that big a deal. We didn't have a crossover or anything. We just ran like crazy across 98. There wasn't that many cars. But before that, everybody at the high school played right here. The high school played. We had marching bands going down, up and down, you know, right here. We had the high school baseball players playing right over here. We didn't have any of that. So that was another big milestone, I think, in our city of Gulf Breeze, you know. You talk about little things that impact us and changing things, you know, because if we never got a high school, Gulf Breeze would look different, you know, than what it does right now. And I would say, you know, 40 years ago, we got our first hospital. You know, I mean, we were big time now. We got a hospital, and a great hospital. I mean, I know a lot of you love Gulf Breeze Hospital. If you tell your friends, don't go to Pensacola, come over here, go to the emergency room here. You'll get seen a lot quicker if you come over here. So 40 years ago, we got our first hospital. I'd say that was another big impact in our area. And then, so with all that changes, it comes to the time where you think about, well, that changes our history, because I can remember when the only fast food place here was Aquarius. How many of you remember Aquarius in here? And you got your first Chick-fil-A sandwich. It was not called Chick-fil-A, it was just a chicken sandwich. You know, Aquarius was right there on the corner of Shoreline and Highway 98. And then our first real restaurant was Waffle House. We got a Waffle House in 73. We were big time then. But I mean, and then we had the Beacon Burger. Anybody remember the Beacon Burger? Only two of us. The Beacon Burger was the gas station right across the street from the high school, kind of where the Seashell Shopping Center is now. The Grays had a little gas station called the Beacon Gas Station. They put a little video, it was like a drive-around hamburger place, and you got your Beacon Burger right there. Yeah. So that was really cool. You know, that was the first Beacon. How many of you remember the Wiener King? Anybody remember the Wiener King? Yes, only two of us. There was a Wiener King right when you came off the overpass in Pensacola Beach, right there, where the big, right next to where the big warehouses are. So a lot of changes, you know. I can remember when they built Harbortown. You know, Harbortown was just this big wooded lot, and they tore down all those trees and everything, and they built Harbortown. You know, that because I had our first little bitty shop right there on the corner. There was a little half circle of hotel rooms. You know, we had 3 sets of different little hotel rooms, places like that. We had one right there. We had one where Bay Bridge Office Park is now. There was another little set of a little hotel. And we had one kind of where the Seashell Shopping Center is. There was one right there. So a lot of things have changed. And you look back and go, wow, history has changed Gulf Breeze. You still think Gulf Breeze hasn't changed much, but there's been a lot of change just in my lifetime since I've been here. So what does that mean as we continue to move forward? So here we talked about the Live Oaks Reservation and some of the things that we have there and the benefit that we have, because we have this giant buffer between us and down the highway with all these amenities with the Andrew Jackson trails and all these walking paths and everything. Another great avenue for our friends and our family to enjoy the Gulf Breeze area and still want to stay here in this area. Now here's the naval, we're talking about the Naval Live Oaks and the park. Here it talks about where it was dedicated in 1998 as a state park for the system for Gulf Breeze. And Ocean Springs is one of our sister cities that also has lots of state parks. And then we talk about Dead Man's Island. I can remember as a kid hiking over to Dead Man's Island. Back then you could build bonfires and do all kind of crazy stuff and everything. But Dead Man's Island has been there, has been a barrier for some of that area right now, but it's under trouble right now, and we're looking at different ways that we can to try to save Dead Man's Island, so we protect this estuary that runs behind there. So that's another thing we're seeing change right now through here. And here you can see some of the folks that are enjoying Dead Man's Island out there having picnics and stuff like that. This is the kind of stuff we like to see throughout the city and to keep our histories great. And then we talk about some of the improvements. I don't know if you all know this, but right now we're doing on a big program, we're going to spend about $1 million, which is all free grant money that we got at Woodlawn Park. You know where Woodlawn Park is, right there at the corner of High Point and Fairpoint? The park right there. We're going to make it so where you can have handicap access down to the water. You can launch kayak boats and you can launch paddle boards. We're doing public bathrooms there. So there's a whole avenue of things that are getting ready to change in that area there. You'll see that's starting this year too, so that'll be another history-changing item. And then here you see some of the parks. When the park was dedicated for Shoreline Park, it was dedicated as part of the military and the tree reserve. But you can see here's all our parks and everything. A town of 7,000 people, 3,000 to 4,000 homes don't have the amenities that you see in Gulf Breeze. They don't have tennis courts and all this public access and everything. And this is part of the history we don't want to change. This is part of the history we want to keep and hold on to that keeps people coming back here. As you can see, Shoreline Park, all the different amenities we have down there. We have, you know, after Ivan hit, I don't know if many of you lived here when Ivan hit. It was quite devastating. We lost our little fishing bridge. You're seeing them rebuild on the Pensacola side right now, that concrete fishing bridge, they're doing it. Well, the city of Gulf Breeze opted not to rebuild the fishing bridge. We're not going to spend $17 million rebuilding the fishing bridge for all 8 of those people that fish on it. You know, we'll build a nice little pier, or we'll do this and that. So we took that $17 million and we invested in our parks. We built a whole nother, this section we're sitting in right now, we built this. We upgraded all our parks with splash pads and other parks throughout the city to make more amenities. We did improved our gas system, went all the way to Pensacola Beach, so we could use it as a revenue generator. So we took a lot of that money and we spent it, we felt wisely, to improve the city versus spending it all on one fishing bridge that's vulnerable for another storm, as you see after Sally took out the one in Pensacola side. Just a little bit of tribute there, if you know. So here we are. Oh my gosh, that's a picture of me. Don't stop looking at it. So here we are at the dedication of the entrance of the park there. We had a fire pit that has a multi-use path and everything, which I think was a great thing that we did, again, with grant money and moving forward and making just the most livable city. I don't know, have you all ever walked the multi-use path through the wetlands?
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
It is amazing.
fabulous.
Huh?
It's
Yeah, very nice. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I was a little against it, thinking, well, the first hurricane's just gonna wash this whole thing out, because I lived through Ivan, you know, that was my first thought, but I've walked on it many times, had my grandchildren out there many times, so it is a great asset to our community. So here's what it looked like Wayside Park, I say Mariners Park in 1970. You know, we had these huts, kind of the same thing they had at Quiet Water Beach on Pensacola Beach. If you grew up here, you remember that. The old concrete pier that we used to go swimming on and everything. But Wayside Park, which is now Mariners Park, when we incorporated in 1961. So here's that area I was telling you about at Mariners Landing. This is all going to be all the new landscaping and everything we're doing on the west side. So this is going to definitely change our history. Here you can see this is the piece of artwork a guy by the name of Randy New. He did my brother's statue on Pensacola Beach, so he donated that to the city. That's going to be there, and they're going to try to do a matching anchor on the Pensacola side. So it'll look like two anchors coming across the sound there, or the bay. So this is going to be a nice area here to go eat, have picnic, meet your friends. I don't know if you had a chance to go underneath there. It's really nice there with that shaded area and all that. It's an amazing. And as citizens of Gulf Breeze, you don't have to pay to park, so that's nice too. Right? Some people don't like that. So here we are at the sewer plant, my favorite place. Right now we're in the process of expanding our sewer plant. We have a 2 million gallon capacity, 2 million gallons a day that we process of sewer. That's crazy, isn't it? So you notice through the city of Gulf Breeze, and some of you might have been impacted by this, when I first came on city council, only about 50% of the people in Gulf Breeze were on sewer. And I'm like, why is that? Every house should be on sewer, because we have water all around us. It leaches into the bays and into the sounds, and you know, it damages our estuaries and everything. So I said, well, JB, we don't have the capacity. If we put everybody on sewer today, we don't have the capacity to do it. So as we maxed into our capacity, right now we're in the process of building a $61 million new sewer plant, which is going to almost double our capacity, what we have right now. So that's the reason you see a big push to get everybody in the city of Gulf Breeze that wants to, while we're doing it, to get on. And it's a great opportunity to do it because it's really a low cost to you because of the grants and some of the funding that we have. I think when I put my mother on sewer over here on Florida Avenue, between the impact fees, and this was probably almost 20 years ago, it was almost $25,000. By the time I got rid of the septic tank, compromised the septic tank, had the water line, paid my tap fee, all that kind of stuff. But now you can do it, basically you just have to pay your impact fee if it's coming through your area at the time. So it's a great time to take advantage of that. And then, so that's one of the big things that's going to change the face of Gulf Breeze is that we're going to be getting all of our homes, hopefully, off of septic tanks. Now, if you lived here during a hurricane, you lived on Gilmore Street or some of these other streets, when you had, when you have raw sewage coming up out of the ground, you know, on your streets and everything, that's not a fun thing. So that's another reason why we are trying to push to get all the city of Gulf Breeze off of septic tank. Now, there's been some pushbacks from some citizens, and well, septic tanks are perfect here. We have a real sandy soil, it's this and that, it really doesn't affect us, it drains well, but again, we're surrounded by water, and that's one of the things we see. You know, being a person who's grown up here all their life and being around the water, I can't tell you the percentage of less crabs I see, horseshoe crabs. I can't remember the last time I saw a horseshoe. I used to see them all the time out in the bays and sounds. You know, it just seems like the wildlife has gone down and down and down since I've been living here. And one of the things we think it is because of the water pollution. It's part of it coming from up the river too, from some of the paper mills or whatever else is going into and leaching into the rivers and coming down. But part of it is us too, what we're doing. So that's the reason we're having a big push. That you see more of our park situations and what we're doing here. Here I was talking about here we are at Baptist Hospital at the 40th anniversary. What a great asset that is to our community. They're talking about they're hoping to expand it. They're start working on their expansions this year. They're getting ready to do a bunch of new upgrades. You know, they still have the same windows and doors when they built it 40 years ago. So they're getting ready to try to make it less confusing when you walk in there, where you're going, how you get to where you're going. So that's a big thing. And here's another thing we just did. We just actually put a designated turning lane at the hospital. You think, oh, wow, that's no big deal. It took us a year to get that designated turning lane at the hospital. I don't know if any of you ever go to that red light. It's a nightmare when people.
I love it.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We've been working on that. It took us a year to get that. You would think, well, just change the light. They made us do stress tight on the cables to make sure they're holding it. You know, it's government. I mean, government's crazy. So the next thing we're gonna do is right there where the overpass from the beach, if you're coming away from the Presbyterian Church, a right turn only. So you can't go across and go left up that way. So some of you might like, oh, I like going left, but it's crazy trying to go across there sometimes when people do it. Now that we have the new red light at the hospital and everything, we're trying to get people to go that way. So that's another change we're gonna see coming up. Hopefully, you wouldn't believe what all FDOT wants us to do to make that happen. You would think just paint an arrow and put a sign up, right? Right turn only, but it's not like that when you deal with FDOT. So here's my council. Randy Abear, Tim Burr, Amy Levi, and Brittany Simpson. Great city council. Randy Abear, local businessman, owns Abear AC and air conditioning. Tim Burr, retired attorney, very smart guy. This guy just a search bum. Amy, local realtor, moved here about 2 years, got kids in middle school. And then Brittany Simpson, her husband's a doctor, local doctor. They have children. They live over there off of Navarre Street. Has kids in middle school. So a really great, diverse city council. We all live in different parts of the city. So we all have a different perspective of the city. We all looking out for the different perspectives of the city. So hopefully in the long run, that pays off. We've got a great staff. You see Samantha up there, Craig Chamberlain, he grew up here. I used to coach his sister in softball, so we have a lot of local people here. Our police department, we have, I think, 23 police officers right now, 2 police officers that stay in school. And then our whole median and landscaping program. To me, I know some of you might think, why do you spend all that money on landscaping? To me, it means a lot that we have a beautiful city. I wanted it when people came to Gulf Breeze, they go, wow, what town is this? Why does this look different than we did when we were in Pensacola or Pensacola Beach? So it's real important to me that we spent the money, we got a lot of it through grants, we got a lot of it through donations and everything. That was one of the things I ran on initially 14 years ago, that we have such a small area of medians, this should be the best looking city around. So I went down to Rosemary Beach, my wife and I, for our anniversary, and I'm, wow, this is a really cool little town. You know, this is the way our town should look. So that's what inspired me to really do a push after that. So hopefully y'all appreciate that kind of stuff. But again, it goes back to what's going to change our history. You know, what's going to be the next history changer? And that's a good question. You know, we don't have that crystal ball that we can look back on and see what. You know, I would say 98 is going to be our changer. Because you know, when they first designed the bridge, when they first started about doing the bridge, they wanted to do a flyover Gulf Breeze, like 110 coming into Pensacola. That's kind of what they wanted to do. And then there was talk, well, we'll just do another bridge and let it come in down by the Live Oaks, past the Live Oaks reservation. The DOC said, well, that won't happen because we're only funding a new bridge. I mean, an old bridge, we're replacing it. We're not going to fund a new bridge. So we fought them back and forth, because we didn't want to be I don't know if y'all remember, when they brought in the 110, it kind of cut Pensacola in half. You know what I mean? It literally cut it in half, the west side versus the east side. It was a big light and change. So we really kind of fought them, because if that had happened, you might have, well, one bank, one small grocery store, you know, maybe you would have another commerce. You would have the convenience that you have now with a Publix and a Walmart and a Chick-fil-A. You know, all that stuff would go away, you know, because there's no way that it could support it. You know, a town of 4,000 people could support, you know, that kind of. Well, you got 50,000 cars a day going through Gulf Breeze, and all of a sudden you got 500. You know, it's a big change. So that's going to be one of the big things that's going to change Gulf Breeze in the future, is how we handle 98 and how we deal with 98. And I would say the other thing is our continuum with a healthy growth. You know, we don't want to. You know, we're not real big on bringing high rises. We have a maximum height in areas of our town where you can't build like a giant condominium, like right here when you come off the bridge and stuff like that. We try to keep our growth to a certain level. I'm hoping it shows. I don't think it shows. So one of the things that we are talking about doing, and one of our visions we would like to do, is Mariners Landing. So when you come across the Chappie James, the 3 Mile Bridge, whatever you want to call it, into Gulf Breeze, it's kind of a little bit of a rundown area looking right now. We just improved the left side. We have the the hotel looks pretty good, but that first entrance there, when you come on, you know, we'd love to see some type of breakwater there, maybe a visitor's information center, something for the historical sightings and display stuff. You know, we're just spitballing. Well, what can we do there if we can get that property and really make it nice? You know, maybe a small town marina, you know, if you have a breakwater, you can actually do a marina. If you don't have a breakwater, you got 90-mile-an-hour west winds coming across that bay, and it's hard to keep anything. And you guys that have boats, you know that would be a tough gig. So that's another vision we have, is work on that. And I would dare say that continue to work on our e-commerce. You know, we had, App River was here for a long time, right there by Ace Hardware, and they moved away. So we want to try to figure out what kind of, because Gulf Breeze has always been a great place to live, a hard place to make a living. Most people went away and developed their careers and came back. Very few of us were able to stay here, make a living, support our families. You know, Navy Federal was a life changer, you know, for us. There's been a couple of big, Andrews Institute was another big game changer for us. So that's some of the things that, you know, that I challenge our city manager and our staff to really work on. How can we develop healthy e-commerce, you know, where we have good restaurants, good jobs, good businesses, and still have the best town around, you know, our livable town around. So that's one of our goals as the mayor and council. I'll be the mayor for the next 3 years, unless something changes. But that's one of our goals, is to continue that same path. Any questions? Come on, I know everyone of y'all have questions.
When you're talking about 98, you mean right through the city?
Right through the city, yes ma'am. Right through, from the overpass on the beach, till you hit the Chappie James Bridge. They're doing a PE study right now. They say it's just to try to maybe narrow turn lanes, you know, like crossover, like in front of my shop. I have a crossover, and then right in front of McDonald's, I have a crossover. They might be looking at, well, we don't need 2 median crossovers there. Because somebody's always getting hit, because people are going, no, come through, you can do it, you come on through, you know. And some guys go up the turn lane and smack them, you know, so we see that all the time. So I'm just saying, right now, that's how they're telling us what they're looking at doing. But the National Seashore, the Live Oaks Reservation, has a lot of power whether or not they can expand their 3 lanes. If you notice, if you're coming from east to west, it narrows back down to 2 lanes right as you get to that area. So as that happens, they're probably going to put a lot of pressure on higher officials and local mayor to widen that to 3 lanes all the way through to Gulf Breeze. And that's where that pinching point of the overpass and the beach is going to have to be addressed. You know, whether it's a flyover, 98 just does a flyover, and then you're coming from the beach, you go underneath it instead of the other way around, and that way you don't have a pinch there. There's going to be some things that are going to have to be addressed if they do that. Does that make sense what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's really hard when you're coming from the east, you're coming in, you know, you're coming into Gulf Breeze, and then you need to turn into Publix. You take your life in your hands.
Yeah.
So you just bypass it and go make a U-turn or something that's safer. But trying to get across 2 lanes, that's terrible.
Go
Usually
to
what
the
I do is
light.
I turn before the overpass and go behind the overpass and go in by the Presbyterian Church and go in that
Yes,
way. You know,
yeah.
and
Or
my
you
wife
can
said,
go
"Don't
past
don't
to
go
the
there,"
light.
because she doesn't like me crossing over. Or coming from the beach and trying to get all the way over so you go shoreline. That's really crazy.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Any other questions for Steve? Yes, sir.
Eddie, is there any plans to move the football stadium?
You know, back in 2006, we did that 15-year plan. You know, that's probably what you're speaking of. And what that was hey, if we could do it all over again, kind of like when I showed you the map, what would we do? What could we do? And that was when that was brought up. It would say, well, if we bought out the I don't remember the name of the condos right there to the south.
Sailwind.
Sailwind. If we bought out Sailwinds and moved all the school stuff to this side and moved City Hall somewhere else, that could be happening. But and people showed up at City Hall with torches and pitchforks. I'm not going to kid you. They showed up like we were kicking them out tomorrow. And I said, hey guys, this is just a pie in the sky thing. This was all that was. And so to answer your question, no. You know, there's no. I mean, hindsight, like I talked about in my first set, if we had a chance to move 98, bump it one way or bump it the other, with that done, so we could have all the schools on one side and had all the amenities or whatever, and then had commercial and residential and apartments. And now I would say that we're looking at doing more commercial residential growth, where you have commercial on the bottom and residential like you see downtown and some areas like that. We are open to that kind of stuff. But no, there's no plans of, probably not, me and you won't see it in our lifetime, unless somebody rich like you comes in and buys it and changes it.
Are you still thinking of moving the water tower?
The water tower's going away.
It is.
The water tower's going away, I can tell you that for sure. The water tower is just to do pressure. We are in the process of redoing there's a pump system behind the hospital, that little area behind Hinghol's office, that little veterinarian is, there's a bunch of big, kind of flat water pumps. That's gonna be your water system, and that's already part of your water system. The tower was mainly, or the water tank was mainly used for pressure, right, so we wouldn't lose pressure. That's gonna go away. We'll probably use some type of service pole to handle, because in order to get services for emergency vehicles, like all the way to Pensacola Beach, they have to have something. I'm talking way above I only make $1 a year, so I'm talking way above my pay grade. But that's what I'm being told, that there's gonna be some type of service pole there to handle some of that type of antenna system and all that. But the water tank, because they were talking about moving the water tank up here, by the, above, like where the transfer station was.
Yeah.
I said, why would we want it higher and more visible, you know, so that's when we stepped back and looked at trying to figure out what we could do, and that's when we came up with the plan utilizing that. So, to answer your question, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'll never find my house then. No, it's always a joke. When I first moved here, because I live on a hill, because the streets, you know,
Yeah.
curve around. So every time I was running, I would always find the water tower. I mean, it was always just a joke, but.
We'll find you another spot, you'll find the tower now.
No, now I'm oriented, but that was over 40 years ago, so.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to see us address, safety more on the path, the golf cart path. They don't seem to adhere to any, regulations on those e-scooters and all that. It's just a matter of time.
You're 100% right. Now, we did a big push right before school started. We had our police department out there. We had training classes up here at the rec center, because we have an after-school program here at the rec center. Roger can tell you that. And we had training classes, because it's not when is somebody going to get killed. It's not if there is when they're going to. Somebody's going to get killed. I mean, somebody hit my sister-in-law Lydia. She was coming down Tall Pine Trail, and the kid comes flying up from Soundview Trail and blew past his brother because he wanted to beat him, and hit Lydia, flew over her car, freaked her out. You know, I mean, he was okay. Her car had $3,000 worth of damage with an e-bike, you know, hit her, or it was really an e-scooter. But you're absolutely right. I know Santa Rosa County, you probably saw it in the paper, in the Gulf Breeze paper today, is trying to address that. So maybe, the problem is getting to enforce it. You know, we can put all the rules we want, but if our police department doesn't enforce it, it's no good. You know what I mean? So we're trying to get Rick Hawthorne and some of these other guys, and they were out there first with, like, because you're only supposed to go 15 miles an hour. Because they were coming across the football field, when the school got out, they were coming across football fields, all the parking lot. So we said, no, you have to go the multi-use path, you have to come back this way, if you want to come to the after-school program at the rec center. So we were trying to do that, but it's the first day of school after Christmas, everybody got a new one, you know, so there's like, all of a sudden you got this whole new influx of 10-year-olds and 8-year-olds that got scooters, and they just don't have any concept of the rules of the road. So you're absolutely right, and we are trying to work on that.
How about a stop sign at every road where there's
We had that, but they go, boom.
We took them down though.
Yeah, we took the ones down because people were saying we had too many signs. Imagine that, Gulf Breeze, too many signs. So we took them down and we put them on the main roads like South Sunset, closer to the schools, Navarre Street, but they still don't stop. I mean, I walk that road, that multi-use path, and those kids go past me. You know, they're going 40 miles an hour. It looks like, you know. But you're right. It's something that's going to have to be addressed.
Would cameras help?
Cameras would help, but you know, then you got to pay somebody to do it and enforce it and everything, because they don't have towns or
Write them a
anything.
ticket.
Yeah.
Write them a ticket, take it out of the.
I'd love to do that. I'd love to get my police
Allowance.
department to write them a ticket. But it's what I say and
How
what
about,
they do.
no, citizen arrest.
There you go.
You know, no, kid, you're out.
The Barney Fife,
Here's your
look at the Barney
ticket.
Fife button.
Hey,
Or junior
It
cop
works.
program.
Yeah, remember Ivan Levine, what was his
Yeah,
name down
Ivan Levine, he's
Ivan
down
Levine,
there.
he was citizen arrest.
Yeah.
Anybody else, any questions for me? The opportunity. So, and I know you guys are working on a bunch of different things for your museum and all that. The city is trying to set up a meeting with Barbara in the next couple of weeks to try to see what's the right answer for this program. You know, I don't know what it is. You know, it's a tough gig. The house is in really bad shape. I've walked the house, I've looked at it. It's in a bad spot as far as you're not gonna get a lot of tourists back there. So what's the right answer? I don't know. I think just being open-minded, let's see what we can all come up with, see how we can do it. Because there's a lot of opportunities, there's a lot of neat stuff, a lot of neat historical stuff for the city of Gulf Breeze I think people will be interested in. We used to have a chamber building, kind of where Christy Larkin just opened up her new skin care place right there by the elementary school entrance. That was kind of our chamber, our information center, and we don't have that anymore. So we really don't have one in the city of Gulf Breeze, and then they go to City Hall and they get totally confused. Because those people are down at the police station now, and then there's different people up here. Yes, ma'am.
Up in Atmore, their historical society, their visitor center, and something else are all on the same lot.
And that's kind of what we need. Navarre has something similar to that. By the butterfly thing or whatever that is by the bridge, they have something similar to that.
We
But
got the
chamber.
land, y'all come on.
Any other questions? Mike, anybody? I really appreciate you guys inviting me. Hopefully, I've been informative. Cookies, that was great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh,
Let's give him another round of applause.
Oh, thank you.
We do live in such an amazing place, so, and thank you all for showing up. A lot of you came in with, wasn't looking, and I'm glad to see you. But we're so glad to have you as Mayor J.B.
Oh, thank you.
And, because I think you have a good head on your shoulders, and, so many things seem so logical, but, and the kids, that's such a worrisome thing, it is. Okay, well.
One thing I'll say is, I'm very proud of the quality of life we have in Gulf Breeze, and as a realtor, I preach that. At Christmas time, we light up, making a festive night for Christmas. I'm on there like a wolf on a cat over on the beach, because we don't do it over there. We got a Mickey Mouse little Christmas tree that's not representative, and that big budget over there too. We're a cash cow over in that Pensacola beach, but I'm real proud of you guys over here.
Thank you, I appreciate it. We've been working on that.
Really, the city does excellent work. I mean, especially their landscaping and everything. I mean, those people are really, really good. I mean, everything they do is like top notch. So it really does make it look great. So thank you again for coming.
Yeah.
And yes, hopefully we're gonna have something really, really neat happening soon for the Historic Society. So that'll be